One thing that, as I said before we hit record, that just fascinates me endlessly is so I've done a bit of work for I think I sent you some. I don't know if you tried it, that white mouse soup, that Irish, as I said, chili crack.
Yeah.
So they're based, still crack I should say, based in Dublin. They started at the Fumbly Market. And now they've built that kind of brand. But I used to go over there a lot to Dublin, and I felt like, as I say, there's this real texture to it. I can't really put my finger, like I can't pinpoint a word on it. So I've kind of experienced it in that regard, and I've experienced working with Lorcan and his family who run the business. But one thing that fascinates me is some of the best storytellers in the world are Irish. James Joyce, Oscar Wilde. You
got O'Casey, you got Beckett, you got
Beckett.
So many.
Being an Irishman, why do you think? These, like Ulysses, is one of the best books of. People say it's one of the best books of all time.
I've tried to read it about
Mate,
eight
I can't get
times.
through it.
Yeah.
I can't get through it.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I think there's a value thing and a culture of enjoying talking shite, and being able to go back and have entertaining conversations, and conversations generally being an important thing. And for me, it's really important because I think our business is all about stories, and what you're bringing in terms of the lore and the story that you give guests to be able to tell when they leave the business is really, really central to what I think pubs and restaurants and places where people gather are about.
I hadn't thought of it like that. I suppose there's constant, like, the currency and the energy is the storytelling.
But if you think about the Devonshire, it's all about stories, it really is. And they're true, luckily, the bit about me and Charlie meeting up, the bit about why Ashley's here, the whole lore and story about the Guinness, about the butchery, about what we've done with the cooking and the fire and the wood, and all of the trials and tribulations. We're very conscious that that's currency, and that people need these bits and pieces in order to sort of have something to tell about their experience here.
Yes. Yeah, I think all those stories intertwine, and then that's because one of the things I wanted to ask you is how this explosion happened. As I said, I was with George and Dom in Suffolk, and they were saying our friend Osh is about to open this pub called the Devonshire. This was kind of, I think, mid to early October times. I think you guys opened...
We opened on the 5th of November,
The 5th of November, yeah. And then it just went, this explosion happened. Yeah. I remember my first time I came here, long story, but I'd lost my passport. Absolutely, it was a nightmare. I'd lost my fucking passport, and I was meant to be going to Paris the next day. And I came in here and I had 2 pints of Guinness, and it just felt like a big cuddle. I was like, this is
so nice to hear.
This is what a great booze is about. But what would you say, like, how was there anything you put in place beforehand for this explosion to happen, or like how did it happen?
There was loads of things, and in hindsight it was that theme of stories is really important. So like this green room that we're sitting in at the moment, which was an afterthought, we thought really long and hard about what the story of this would be, and we wanted to be a place for art and music and people who are creative minded to feel comfortable and safe, and that's really worked. The same with the little booths in there that we swap around for the restaurant, the way the bar is, the little nods to culture. All of those things. And we were very fortunate that Charlie and Ash and I had so much time to plan and think about all these things. And every single plan or thought that we had made a story, I think. Down to the knives that we used for the steak in the restaurant by Cato. That was one of our great stories, and really, really lovely collaboration with them. And I think, all of those things together give us a bit of texture and colour. That people can take away and go, oh, well, I experienced this, or I saw that and I quite like that, or whatever it is, Even the sign writing on the front, to go and find Perry, who's a old school hand signed writer, to properly do all the outside in the way it would have been done 100 years ago. It's a nice little vignette.
Yes, and when you talked about at the beginning about the guys on the door we want them to feel like ghosts and wear their normal clothes. That is the story. And as I opened it with the story I had of the Devonshire when I was here on Friday was that. I was like, we're getting ushered in, but it's in the most calm and kind of serene, warm way, which I've never had before in a pub.
But that really comes from the culture, Everything we do is pointed at our business, which is to make people feel comfortable, safe, happy, and well looked after. That is core to what we're doing, and we think about that all the time. Whether it's where furniture is, how the staff engage with you, how you check in, how things work, how you feel when you get served, all of those bits and pieces. And the door, or the we don't call them door staff. We have a word for them, and I've forgotten what it is.
It's Monday morning, mate. Don't worry.
Yeah.
What's the story of you? Because Charlie was at was Flatiron.
Yeah.
And then Ashley was at the Fat Duck.
Yeah.
How did the three trio come together?
Charlie and I go back to a round table discussion that happened, I think it was around 2012-13, with the Caterer magazine, and we just happened to be sat at a round table with a load of other operators talking about how the business was at the time. We ended up getting on quite well during the conversation, went for a pint afterwards, and ended up becoming reasonably close and chatting about stuff. And Charlie and I did a project in 2014 where at the ship we roasted a whole ox on a huge, great big pole with cartwheels on either end. There's a great video of it on YouTube. It's very fun. One of the best things I've ever did. And we sort of collaborated on that and began talking about doing a pub at that stage. But I had no intention of doing anything apart from staying at Young's for a long time. And it gradually came to fruition over a long time. So there had been hundreds of hours of conversation about this before we even looked at this site. So we had an idea what direction we were going to go in. And Charlie's a wonderful, wonderful guy. He's so clever. He thinks really slow. He's amazing with numbers. He's strategically one of the best operators out there. And, you know, his journey with Flatiron to go from 0 to 13 restaurants over 7-8 years is an incredible story. And that, for me, Flatiron, I think, is one of the best, if not the best, multiple operating restaurant chains in the country. And, you know, it's credit to him. And he's taken a lot of that expertise in here with me and Ashley. And I think it really shows. Ashley sort of came along following a conversation that me and Charlie had been having, because we both remembered a particular dish at the Heinz Head in Bray.
Oh, I've been there.
Going back to 2003, 4, 5, before I got a Michelin star, where there was this suet pudding, and it was ox tail and kidney, and in a sauce, really delicious steamed pudding with the sauce over the top. And I can still remember the feeling of putting my spoon through it and then tasting this delicious meat. And it stuck out to me as the best iteration of traditional British pub food I'd ever had. I said this to Charlie in a conversation at Norman's Coaching Horses one afternoon, and he's gone, fuck, I remember that dish as well. Absolutely banging. I wonder who was behind that, because obviously it's not a Heston dish. And I've gone, I'm certain it was Ashley. And he's gone, Ashley, do you know him? Not really, but I've got a friend who knows him. Do you know him? Not really, I've got a friend who knows him. So we both reached out to him, and 2 days later we're having a pint with him, and that was it.
And how are you similar and different? So one of the things that fascinates me is how like the storytelling bubbles down from the top, right?
Yeah.
But I love to know how you guys are similar, and then how you're different across the three of you.
Well, we all love pubs, and we all love pints, and we all love stories. We're all really good family men as well, I think. And, you know, we've all got kids. We all like our holidays. We all like a bit of balance. But I think we're all completely besotted and think all the time about our business, you know, what we do, and pubs, restaurants, how to do things well. I think that would be how I would describe how similar we are.
I love the word besotted. I haven't
Completely.
heard that describe that as some people say obsessed, but I think that's quite a nefarious way of saying it.
Yeah, it's a bit more emotional.
Yeah, besotted. Because I think I'm besotted with this podcast. I love that, how a word can completely change things.
And I think that's the similarity, and we really, really care about it. And all three of us really care about the details, but I think we care about the details in different ways, which I think is interesting, because actually, you look at my career and what I've done, and you look at Charlie's career and what I've done, you look at Ashley's career and what he's done, they're really, really, really different. You know, I've always been the front of house, front man, maitre d' type, you know, publican, mine host type character who deals with customers day to day and staff and customer interaction day to day. Charlie's much more thoughtful, overview, a little bit more corporate, always about the big picture and, you know, the business side of things and doing the deals and making sure that the margins work and making sure that best suppliers and best practice and all that. And Ashley has always been the food perfectionist. I mean, he invented the triple cooked chip, for God's sake. Do you know what I mean? And you know, things like the journey to get to the bread that we've done, the journey to get to the chocolate mousse. You know, we were cooking for a full year before we opened down at Mission Kitchen. Not a lot of people know that, but
that's where I used to be based in Vauxhall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I was based for 6 years.
So we started cooking there. We started cooking before that, but we took a space in Mission Kitchen in January 23. And we were still cooking there in October. And so that's where all the dishes and the cooking was developed. And Ashley oversaw that with Jamie and us, yeah. And our exec Ev as well, who still works with us on the food side.
It's interesting seeing the kind of as you say, the texture between you three, and then how it kind of spills into this manifestation.
Well, it was
I
think an interesting observation came from a very good friend of mine, Bob, when he met the three of us for a pint. He's gone, it's really interesting, you three, because, Osh, you're total fucking chaos. And I do think in a chaos way, whereas Charlie's complete and absolute order. And then you got Ashley, who's complete and absolute perfection. And I think between the three of us, we got a good balance.
Yeah, chaos, order, perfection. I love the synergy. I think I've listened to a couple of, or read a couple of interviews you've done, Osh, in terms of... I think you talk about the coaching horses, another boozer in Soho.
Love it, yeah.
And I think you talk about, is it the landlady there or the landlord? And you say the best pubs have to have a landlord or a publican who's there kind of a lot of the time. I'm very set on that as an idea and have been always. And I think that's changed a lot in England, because even when I came over, most pubs had a landlord, and usually the landlord lived upstairs, or the landlady. Yeah. And just because of the way that the corporate owners of pubs over the years have, you know, sold off the accommodation upstairs. In relative terms, they've lowered the wages that landlords get and the benefits they get, and how they're perceived. And then there's the added baggage of the job itself, which has become much more paperwork based, with all of the red tape and the procedures which we rightly have to do, and that takes a lot of the time away from landlords. Also, a lot of them only work 40 hours a week, which for me is bonkers. But then again, I'm a dinosaur. You do see some incredible pubs though, and when you do see an incredible pub, the chances are 99% there's a landlord or landlady or a figurehead there who is in charge of it, runs it, and takes pride and responsibility for the day to day. Yeah, it's fascinating, because I think I go to a lot of pubs, right? Every weekend I'm going to a different pub.
Glad to hear
it. But I think a lot of them can feel kind of a bit IKEA flat pack, in that it's like, it's rinse and especially with the big corporate chains.
Yeah.
There's numerous of them, right? I used to work for a cheese wholesaler called Harvey and Brockless. Used to be a man in a van when I left uni. And I'd go into the kitchens and you'd see this. It was kind of the system behind the scene was